Hello. Today is Wednesday, the 11th of April. I wanted to say something more about the ego. I was really struck by the fact that God never makes mistakes, and therefore, when we say the ego is mistaken in its many positions taken, we're really off base. The ego is not mistaken. The ego is an instrument of the beloved. It's one of the pieces of creation that we would rather not deal with, so we can spurn it and piss on it, so to speak. And even the holy people, the spiritual masters, the religious giants, will say, well, it'll be fun to be on the other side of death because we'll leave the body behind, so to speak. We'll leave the ego behind. We'll release ourselves from any obligations to long distance journeying with the creation of me. And, it's like we get to judge. It's a perfect back door where I get to have my ego stand up as a spiritual giant and say, well, it'll be nice to get rid of my ego. It's a fascinating piece of devilment, if you will. Because in truth, as we know, there is one creator, and therefore, dear people, there is one creation. Each of us is a different sampling of creation. Yes, yes, yes. We are all uniquely attuned to what our soul came here to do. And that expression shows up in the physical plane existence of me. And for me to love that aspect of me in its whole entirety is, I've often thought, that's the fool's errand. I believed in the ego. I believed that the power of my ego was so forceful that much of what happened in my life was driven by the ego's need to be important. And I believe that was true until it stopped being true, and I realized I would not have made it to this point in time if I had believed anything else about the ego. But now, because the ego is no longer needed to be the victim of my behaviors, I can let that part go. I don't need to worry about how I've been or how I might be as I move forward in life, just to recognize that this is the life I was given by the beloved. These are the stories I pass through, some of them of importance and some of them just passing show experience. And often I don't get right or wrong what either of those might mean in the moment. I make something of something that's nothing, and it seems very important to me. And then I will say something like what I'm saying about the ego, which does feel like it is important because I think it's how I have held myself in bondage. Bondage to not being good enough, less than, or too proud. Whatever the reason, some shortfall or long off or, it just a reason for me not to believe that it is the value that I have lived through because it's where I live. The ego is there within the living of me. And there's nothing wrong with it. So for me to let it go into God is to give the gift of me to God and not try to assess where I am on the high and low ratings of success or the ladder of success or whatever words you want to use that separates me from the rest of them. So, just an interesting thought. You're loved. I'll probably talk about ego again. It interests me. It seems like a true doorway out of a way of being. So, God bless, God bless.